Coming up, what will a COVID Christmas mean for London's pubs and the Tonight, the 5 days of Christmas, but could it still be last orders for thousands of London pubs? Good evening. The 7,000 restaurants, pubs and bars in London had waited to see if the announcement about Christmas would bring some good news at the end of a year with little of it. But the decision that you can meet with other households in homes but not pubs for 5 days over Christmas has been met with disappointment and anger, with industry bodies warning Christmas and restrictions in the run-up could mean last orders for thousands of venues. Our political correspondent Simon Harris reports. Well, joining us now to talk more about this is Emma Clarkin, the Chief Executive of the British Beer and Pubs Association. Emma, thanks for joining us this evening. So, on the face of it, great news for families, but not so good news for the pubs, of course, who would have been relying on that Christmas custom. But under the rules, no mixing of households. So just, how badly hit are the pubs, especially? Can you at all understand the logic behind it and why they made this decision? Going to be my next question. I mean, the Christmas trade would have been a chance, wasn't it, for the pubs and the restaurants to kind of recoup from the losses of this year, especially come January as well, because it is traditionally very, very quiet. Well, in the West End, actors and crews are rehearsing for Christmas productions before they know whether they'll be able to open. If London goes into Tier 3 tomorrow, theatres will be closed. In Tiers 1 and 2, capacity can only be 50%. Well, at the Dominion, Jacqueline Josser, Matt Willis and Brian Conley are preparing for a Christmas carol ahead of tomorrow's announcement. They've been speaking to Carolyn Sim. Next tonight, a teenager who reached speeds of 180 miles an hour on his motorbike during a police chase has pleaded guilty to dangerous driving. Marianne Basilica Dragoi jumped red lights, rode on the pavements and on the wrong side of the road as he tried to escape officers. Remarkably, no one was hurt. Chloe Keedy reports. Crossrail 2 has been stopped to focus on improving infrastructure in other cities. The Treasury. Publicly, she's one of the capital's most vibrant personalities, influencing fashion and trends over the decades. But privately, celebrated designer Zandra Rhodes has been on a very different journey during the pandemic. Earlier this year, she was diagnosed with cancer just before she turned 80. Or after opting for treatment, she's now thankfully in remission. And Zandra is sharing her story exclusively with ITV News to give hope and encourage others who may find themselves in a similar situation to seek help. Well, she spoke to Ria Chatterjee. Still to come. But first, the closure of a main route through the city was described by Transport for London as bold changes to transform the busy central London corridor. Bishopsgate was closed in August to cars to make cycling safer and easier. But it has angered the capital's cabbies, who today have taken the Mayor of London and TfL to court. Campaign groups of other road closures around London will be watching the result closely, as Martin Stew reports. Now, any Strictly fans out there will know it was second time lucky for contestant Jamie Lang. The Made in Chelsea star is dancing his way into the judges' good books on the show after having to pull out last year due to a broken foot. Well, he's been doing all that while running a business during tough times, and he's here to tell us more. But first, here he is on the dance floor with his partner, Karen Hauer. Oh, Sally, wasn't he lovely? Now listen, from a rather lovely conversation to something... Floppy foot. Yeah, floppy foot, no one wants it. You've got to tell me about the rat population in London, because it's going up significantly, isn't it?
Yes, this is not the nicest story in the world, but we've had a bumper year for rats, so not particularly pleasant. What is a bit better is the weather. It's quite chilly though. Here we go.
I'm getting there. Yeah, I'm getting there.
Advent, before any of them have a living advent calendar. They make their street into a living advent in a row. But of course, we've got the pandemic this year, so they couldn't.
And just before we go, some music news. London's Dua Lipa leads the nominations for this year's Grammys. And that is it. We're back with the latest after ITV News at 10. The ITV Evening News is up next with Mary. But from me and the rest of the London team, bye-bye.